Hello, people. Um, I'm here to create a role playing game. The idea is that if I do this now on camera, sitting here focusing on creating a role playing game, then something will happen. I've been creating role playing games or this role playing game for 5 years now, and I've never been satisfied. And I've always gone like 50% or 80%, got bored, scrapped everything, started anew. And so this is something new. So I want to just start out, create a role playing game, and record everything. And this will give me some accountability, some structure, and hopefully motivation and some progress. So let's start with Explorers. This is a role playing game. My main goal in this role playing game is that it's going to be fun for me. What do I mean by fun for me? Well, I've been playing a lot of role playing games, and I find that I usually tweak them, change things up because I don't like those rules and do a lot of things. So, when I started 5 years ago creating a role playing game, it was a rebellion against the how role playing games are played now because I didn't want to play that way. I want a game that focuses on exploration. That's the main goal, exploration. So, and that is what is fun for me. And so I want to add whatever rules that are fun for me and remove rules that are not fun for me. So that is my main goal. Now, how do I want to achieve this? Well, I first started thinking about making a rule book. That's one aspect of it. But the rules are, I mean, that's not the fun part of a role playing game. The fun part is the adventure. And actually, this hit me last night. And the reason why I actually just took out my camera and started recording is because for the last 5 years, this part has been missing. I've been focusing on creating a role-playing game that is fun for me by mixing up homebrew rules that I like to play with. But I've never sat down and created an adventure with it. Well, I have played a couple of games, not whole campaigns, but small games with my rules and tweaked other rules, and I find it fun. I like the rules that I've been using, but generally, I haven't played with the adventure part. Now, in the beginning, I thought that if I just make some generic world, fantasy medieval world where, there you could have orcs, you could have some magic and stuff, and if I just created a generic world, then that was disconnected from the rules, then I could let everybody homebrew whatever they wanted with their games, but then again, that's not fun for me. This part here, I actually the fun part for me is to really create this world. So I'm starting backwards. This time I'm starting backwards. This time I'm starting with an adventure. I'm starting with this adventure here. And as I build different parts of this adventure, I will eventually like take these parts, the fun parts. I mean, there's a fun part here and a fun part here and a fun part here. And from here, I'll just build up rules as I go along. Of course, I have a lot of rules already that work, that I've playtested. But the rule book as in its whole is very disjointed, weird. So maybe if I create an adventure, I will get more consistent rules. Okay, so let's focus on this adventure. The adventure. I'll use caps lock here. Adventure. This adventure. I haven't come up with a good name yet. So I have a bad name. It's called The Shores of Everhollow. It's done. It's really bad. But it's a start. I'll get there somehow. Now, the important things with this title is the shores and the Everhollow. Because the shores, that's where you start. And Everhollow is the mystery. So this is the beginning. And this is the mystery. That's why. So we begin on a shore. This is my idea. Now, bear with me. This is a very weird thought process. So I'll get to it in the end. I hope. So I'm starting with some sort of calamity. Hold on, I'll just Google what calamity means. Yes. Perfect. Calamity. That's a major event with great loss. So that's like an atomic bomb or something. A magic spell that just explodes. Some major calamity happening somewhere else in the world. Now, this calamity leads to the players or the PCs and other crew and civilians. They have to pack up their bags, go on a ship, I'm gonna draw a good looking ship here. On a ship. Isn't a ship. Here. Do some finer details. Something. Yeah. A ship. Go on a ship and land at the shores. That's the beginning. So this great calamity means that these people here, there's uh, almost no resources. Sources. So almost no resources. They barely manage to end up here alive. And that's where you start. Start out crashing into the shores, deprived of everything you need, and then you have to just start to survive. So, one aspect here will be base building. Actually, I'll set it up with some quotation marks because I don't like base building as in you pay X amount of money and then you get a well and then you can do different things. That's not the fun part of base building. Sure, that's a fun part of a video game base building, but that's not the fun part of a role-playing game. So here I want to have some, this is like NPC interaction, where NPCs will provide like services, and then some side quests, now one thing that popped into my mind was reputation. Actually, I'll write down reputation. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it yet, but I'll write it down. Again, free flowing, don't know how this is going to go, so I'm just spitballing here. And of course, resource. I'll call it restock. Because the idea is that the second aspect is exploration. And so this will happen at the shores, and this will happen at Everhollow. Is it Everhollow? Yeah, Everhollow. So the shores here and the Everhollow here. That the shores here we will do base building. That's the NPC interaction, the downtime. I'll write downtime. Downtime activities. Right? So in over at the Everhollow, that will be exploration. So here we will have I'll call it resource spending. Yeah, call it resource spending. That's abilities, supplies, health. Yeah, and then resource gathering. That's I mean, magical artifacts. Artifact. Oh shit. Artifacts. And more. I'm saying I want something like you walk into Everhollow. I want Everhollow to be an abandoned village at first, at the sort of what would I say, the surface level, and then as you just go down and down, it's deeper and deeper. It becomes like super dark. But therefore, I want like it's a village, so I want people to move in. I want people to sort of, oh yes, we opened this part of the dungeon so that suddenly water is flowing, and therefore we get fresh water, which again helps. So I would say unlock what would I call it? Unlock utilities. I'll call it utilities. Utilities. I mean, it's a bad name, but I know what I'm talking about. So, thirdly, I want there to be a mystery. So, as you continue to explore, you get information, you unlock this Everhollow and open up and get the answers to things. And oh yeah, most definitely systemic game design. Yes. So this is like a loop. So there's a loop here. This is the game loop that I want. So I sort of cheated a little bit here. Mostly because I was thinking about this idea a while back, or actually yesterday. That's when it struck me. But this adventure here, is going to be a mega dungeon. Of Doom. With 2 exclamation marks. That's the adventure. That's Everhollow. That's like the old school. You sit down and just churn through multiple layers of encounters. You go deeper and deeper and deeper and unlock this enormous underworld that is underneath this Everhollow here. That is what I want. Mega Dungeon of Doom. And the gameplay loop here is supposed to be that you start out in your base at the shores and you go and explore Everhollow. And then you explore a bit, and then you're done exploring, you go home, it's nighttime, you go home, and you go back, maybe do some side quests, maybe do some downtime things, restock on your supplies and so on, and then go back to Everhollow and go deeper and deeper and deeper. And what I want here is that I want, first of all, for players to explore. And as they explore and start to unlock things, they get resources that helps them restock better. So maybe they have some supplies and health and stuff, like for instance health. Okay, they take damage occasionally throughout the dungeon, and then when they come back, if they gathered a magical artifact or unlocked some utility function like clean water, or I have no idea, but something. Then when they get back, okay, you got clean water, so uh, it's easier to stay healthy, and therefore you can restock your restock your health here a lot faster, which means that you can survive the dungeon longer, etc., etc. It's like something like that. I want this gameplay loop. So you start on in a base, you do some exploration, you spend your resources, and then you go back and then you continue this cycle. Now, of course, that is why I want this systemic game design in here. Firstly, because I want the dungeon to open up eventually, like softly, and so that maybe because you got some magical artifact that you could take a shortcut somewhere, and but then when you open that shortcut, that means that the enemy that was in one side of the dungeon that had their own zone that were can now seep into a different zone, and so it creates some sort of ecology. Is that what it's called? I think it's ecology. And that if you, for instance, I mean, because this here, I want to call it restock dungeon. Dungeon, there. Because when you interact, or if you go out to Everhollow, do just a small thing. Let's say you just go in one encounter, you go back and sleep and do this thing, and then you go in here for a short while. Don't spend a lot of resources, just go back. And so you have this very short loop where you try to be as much in your base as possible, just because you don't want to spend too much resources. Well, that is where this systemic game design is, because then time will just eventually make that. I mean, if you think about, I don't want wandering monsters in my game, not specifically because I want to focus on exploration rather than combat, but wandering monsters in D&D is a very good analogy, where okay, you might open up some do one encounter, but then on your if you go back and you go forward each day, I would say there's like, let's say one or two wandering monsters that, or random encounters that pop up in the dungeon. And so doing that or going back and forth without dealing with these random encounters will just eventually mean that there's so many random encounters that you just have to churn through. And yeah, that's the plan. That's the idea. Okay. So I've started something here. I don't know where it's going to end, but I guess that's it for this time. Um, Maybe next time there'll be less rambling thoughts, but yeah, this is it for now. So see ya, I guess.